Wednesday, September 5th, 2019, and I am walking on my property at 755 Hillside Road in Seven Hills, and I am videotaping. Our property has native perennial beneficial plants, not considered herbaceous or weedy. Some of them have just finished blooming for the season, so they don't look as pretty as they did about a week ago. For instance, the cup plant. Now this rye, there's only a small patch here, but we keep it to this area. So we can see we've been trimming all around this little mound. And over here are more cup plants. And about 1 week ago, these are not considered weeds. These are actually a native perennial that are beneficial for pollinators. They get thousands of pollinators, butterflies and bees, and the goldfinches eat all the seeds. And the seeds, they're almost finished eating these seeds at the end of the season. The yellow flowers are no longer on here. They just finished a week ago. So we had a city official come out here yesterday and tell us that we had complaints about our property. So I'm videotaping what it looks like. There just happens to be a crew working on the road right now. So you can see that we have pine trees that have been here since when we bought the house, and just a couple of spots where there's a few branches growing out of the bottom, and there's just one branch right here that we wanted to cut down anyway, just so it doesn't scratch the roof of our vehicles. But I want to have evidence, video evidence of what our yard looks like before and after we do a couple of little things that we've been wanting to do for a couple of weeks, but we both have had health problems, family crises, and a new job. So you can see that the property of the people who called to complain about us has the same type of ditch condition that we have, just as much growth and height. And this is our driveway, which is clear, and our lawn, which is cut, and our magnolia tree. And now I'm walking towards the house, and I'm going to show an area that I believe needs to be trimmed. As of last week, these beneficial plants that are purple, that are very important for butterfly species, and the cup plant just finished their season. They're no longer bright, beautiful purple and yellow and attractive. This is a cup plant that just didn't work out because the deer ate it, so we're going to cut that back too. Now over here we definitely have some plants that are I don't like these, and I don't see that they're beneficial, and they need to be cut. This one little spot right here, but you can see there's just a couple areas around, maybe just 2 or 3 small areas around. The planter area looks nice and clean over there, and the porch is nice. It's got lots of plants on it. But this one area right here, this one corner, and then maybe right around here, around this little sapling, needs to be trimmed. So there's a couple of really small areas. And then over here we have black-eyed Susans. It's well maintained. And this is bergamot, which I use for tea. So it's herbal and medicinal. Black-eyed Susan, the Joe Pye, the bergamot, all of this has a nice clean line to it, a nice edge, and this is a shade mix perennial that we put in to reestablish the soil that was so damaged after we had the septic to sewer conversion done. Okay, over here we have really nice edges, really nicely maintained lines, and this is mint that we eat. We put in our cold beverages in the summertime, and we also harvest some of it for tea and for medicine. And the tops of them get purple flowers, and they're teeming with pollinators. On any given day in late August, there's probably 500 pollinators on these. They go all the way around the sunroom and they're well maintained. And they also are a natural mouse and ant deterrent. The weed whacking around this new sapling, this black gum tree, needs to be weed whacked. And we do have a beautiful dogwood tree here, and we do what we can to try to weed whack around it as much as possible. Here's our garden, and today my husband is doing a little bit of weed whacking. There's the other dogwood not doing so well. I had to contact the Master Gardeners Ohio State Extension about that because it's not doing as well as this one. And we're trying to figure out why. Spent a lot of money on a special soil for it this week. We really do care about the way things look and our plants. So here's the backyard, and my husband's going to be mowing this today. This is some black elderberry, which is also medicinal. I had to special order this from Wisconsin last year. And we had to put up a cage around it because the deer were browsing. We had a cage, but they figured out how to move it, and they really demolished it, which we thought was kind of funny, but not funny. So we put up a higher fence because that's the humane thing to do instead of slaughtering them in front of other people and terrorizing the neighborhood, like some people. And this is more cup plant inside of our garden. Again, it just finished for the season, and it just had hundreds, if not thousands, of yellow flowers all over. I've got a blackberry bush, a dogwood. I have some turtle head in there and some sunflower and tomato. This is another area that we deliberately left uncut. It's a very, very small area around a new sapling with some forget-me-nots as an honor, an homage to a couple of our pets who've died. There's more mint, again, all around it, well-maintained, nice clean lines. And here's our brand new little button bush, which likes to be in a lot of water. And I just planted that this year. This is our fire pit that we don't use, and right now it's very wet, so we're not going to try to weed whack it, but we are going to because the inside of it is a little tall. That is admittedly a little bit tall. And then over here we have underneath our trees, definitely not that bad at all, just a couple of sketchy spots. Here's the crabapple. And then back here, and you can see every property, including 2 yards away, has leftover logs and wood piles. Even the best kept properties around here have yard waste compost as well as food waste. And we're no exception. Here's our wood pile, and we've had this for 12 years with no complaints. This is the very far edge of our property, and you can see all around behind us on Sherry, including the house behind us, that there's not a lot of weed whacking going on the last 5 feet between here and the boundary. And then that wood pile over there actually is First Energy left that. They never cleaned it up. And the same goes for this behind our waste compost pile. They left that here. So that's not our responsibility. And let's see what else. We got some nice trees here. Beautiful. This is our horse chestnut. They have a rapid cycle. That they're one of the first trees to lose their leaves. Here's our food compost, which we maintain. This has some kind of prickly plant that keeps the animals from putting their heads in and trying to eat anything in here, so it's a great little situation. And then again, there's the line. It's pretty clean almost all the way back. I don't really see anything that's all that bad. Now over here, it's just a few spots in the very, very corner of our yard where our oak tree is, our beautiful oak tree on our property. This is the yard behind us, all overgrown. And then the people who called and complained about us, in their backyard are all these weeds next to their garden, and then a huge, ginormous pile of grass that they've dumped from all their cutting, which by the way is very bad for trees. That's going to kill the trees. And then I'm just about finished here. My husband's doing some more weed whacking. This is our oak sapling that we planted 12 years ago. And this is our maple that didn't make it. And we're going to be weed whacking around here, a little hand weeding. Here's a few more saplings that we just planted. This I don't like. We're going to be working on this, so it's a little spot. And then here's our beautiful catalpa that we rescued from the front, doing really well. And just as another tiny little spot here, maybe it's about a foot or two long, way in the back of our yard, you can see that the overall appearance of our property is pretty good. It's well maintained. I would say probably if I had not started a full-time job, would have been much more proactive about some of the little things like this. But certainly the property next to us where they called and complained about us was excessively weedy and terrible, including that garden up until about a month ago was for like 6 feet tall with all kinds of herbaceous, weedy, noxious weeds. And their tree has fallen and it's just hanging there, a dead tree. It's been there for over 6 months. And so there's really no reason that we could imagine why these people would have called on us when our property is actually kind of nice and not at all some kind of blighted nuisance to anybody. I will finish up with one more spot over here, and that is, you can see underneath the trees and all around them, there's just one or two right here like this one. We're going to weed whack around there. And then over here, this area right here between these two maples is the only area that I think looks unsightly. It's just this one spot in the back of our yard, and it's adjacent to the people's property who complained. Now again, their property was, the grass on their property and the weed trimming from April through July was really neglected for about 3 or 4 months. It was constantly uncut. And it was very bad. They probably only cut the backyard like twice this whole year. And it looked like this most of the time. So this is a very recent phenomenon in our yard, only in the past month and only because of exceptional circumstances. Oh yeah, in there, that's going to get trimmed too. So this is a 3/4 acre, and you can see overall, it's not that bad, really. Even the backyard, before my husband's going to mow it today, is not that bad. There's just a few little species of grass blades that are standing up taller than the others. But it's pretty well kept, and there's just like around the saplings is really, and then that one area I just mentioned over there between those maple trees, just around these saplings, these smaller trees that the weed trimming needs to be done, and around the garden and in the front, as I indicated. So again, I'm finishing up here, walking around the sunroom. These are all native perennial. Now the mint, because it's the end of the season and because there were heavy rains, has fallen over. Usually they're standing erect with beautiful purple tops on them and pollinators teeming all over. But it's the end of the season. Even the ferns that are you're allowed to have are starting to brown. So here's more mint underneath the kitchen window. And then over here is probably the worst part. This is a plant that's called burdock. It's medicinal. You can cook and eat the leaves and use the root as medicine, which I've done. But it just last week stopped with the purple, and now they're all dried out. So you can see we started cutting them down even before this building department official came this week. We were already cutting this stuff down because we don't like the way it looks, and it's got burrs all over it. So and then again over here, this is a mulberry that is very hard to dig up, and we are going to be digging that up. So that's it. This is the full circle. Nothing really to get your panties in a bunch over, especially considering that this person who called and complained about us is friends with everybody up and down Hillside in that direction, and they're angry that I called them on their open illegal burning that was making everybody sick, not just us, but other households, including pneumonia and burning eyes, because people were cutting down whole trees and burning them southwest of us. And this individual who lives next door got wind of that and decided to retaliate and complain about our property hypocritically, despite the fact their property was like that for a long time. And he's really kind of not being wise about letting sleeping dogs lie, if you ask me, because of the harassment that we had to take him to court over 7 years ago. It really would be in his best interest to not bother us.